don't use a key. Well, when I first got my car,
guess we've
got
been
that
using
fire,
it since
I
March.
went into Aldo's, came out. It'd been running for an hour and a half. Steve Reeser, we went to the PGA one day, and we left at 7, we got on the bus at like 7:15, we came back at 5. And we're walking to the car, and
You get exposed to it daily, but
Running the whole day?
ran the whole day, gets pretty good gas mileage.
Obviously.
Holy cow.
It was cool.
Then,
AC running for 9-10 hours.
then my 8-minute run isn't bad. I was complaining about it only running 8 minutes. Had to keep on
We
restarting.
didn't even have to fill it up to get back to Washington.
Holy cow.
It was locked, though.
I already signed that, Sarah.
You need these back, or? I had no idea, because I just heard roads. I don't know, it looks like somebody's agenda.
Do I sign these? Yes.
and I think that was when I was telling you, Kurt will try to challenge you. But he doesn't run the city. It's good for the city, but he doesn't run the cities.
Well, some of what happened there, not making any excuses, I should have known better, but we was under a time crunch. You know, we had set that time up that we was gonna start at this time and we was gonna finish at this time, and we just kinda got tangled up into that time frame situation, and that's when we got on the wrong valve.
But to
Sounds like a politician.
just kind of like,
It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I am not running for any office. I would've, yes, I just seen him turn in.
it's funny because, like I told you, I've known Sal since he was a little kid. Where he was, where he is.
I know, it's weird. I know there, I heard one person who,
My kid's age.
I heard from one person who, actually had some damage to his skin, you know? And I really thought that person could come to us and, work something out, you know? And, but he doesn't seem to
Like you
think
said
so,
before,
you know, but I don't know.
Well, it's, our policy is and always has been.
No.
Well, no, it's not no. A lot of times it is no, but it's not no. Is that when we have an incident like that, whether it's water or sewer, we have a procedure we have to follow. Everything has to go through our insurance company. We can't veer away from that. So when we have either a water backup or a sewer backup, we have a policy, we actually have a form that we hand to the resident, and then they come here to City Hall, they file a claim. We do our report on our end, it all goes to the insurance company, and then they make the decision.
No, I understand.
That's how the process works, so.
There's something in there apparently in the ordinance that says that we're not at all responsible for anything of a water.
Yes, that code has been in there since way back in the 70s.
But to me, and it was an accident, there's no question about it, it was understandable it was an accident, but it was something that we did.
Well, no, yes. And I put into my report that it was created by us, so in that case, the insurance company should,
Well, they should go through their company and let those.
yeah, and then that's how it always works, is, we put in, I say we, me and Carrie and Chad, when we do reports, because Carrie and Chad are my two foremans, we put exactly what happened. You know, and we don't sugarcoat it. If we made a mistake, we made a mistake. We learn from our mistakes, and we won't do that again. There's some other things I'll be doing, is I'll be working on my PLCs to put in high-pressure shut-offs on them, so because this could happen at any time. We could have a valve stem break, and that valve knife could slide down and shut off a valve. And the same thing could happen, and we wouldn't even know about it. You know, and unfortunately, we knew about that one because we did it, but that's,
After, I guess, the incident,
yeah.
it was kind of a flurry for a while.
Yeah. And what we also don't do is we don't go into homes when there's an incident, because we have to keep ourselves separate from that. We can't go in and get involved, because then we become involved, so it's a whole, it's a knife walk when we go out there with these situations, because we feel sorry for them. We understand what's going on. We don't like it happening either, but yet we have our procedures that we have to follow that's in the best interest of the city. You know, unfortunately, sometimes we have to do that, so.
But when we got it figured out, it was done and done. Oh, yeah, quick, very quick.
We'll talk about it when,
Oh, one of those.
that's one of those discussions that I said I was gonna have.
there goes the 10-minute meeting.
Okay. Mitchell will still keep 12. Are we running on bank time or or Lombardi time?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. You know, they always deliver these things to our house. I wonder why the hell they just don't mail them. But they've been doing it that way for years.
Just so you
Give the guy something to do.
when I sent out the email, I sent out the memos.
Yes, we should, you know you've been on this thing for a while when you become so cynical.
Well, and then, and then they send it out and email it to you, so.
Yeah, this doesn't go as meeting minutes, this is just garble.
Gotcha, she's gonna go back and flip
Yeah,
something in a
yeah.
minute.
Well, she's supposed to. Now, she may have turned it on ahead of time, so we'll still edit that part out. We don't start any meetings until 7:30.
I just wanted to let you know.
We'll be out of the paper.
Yeah.
Next time, you never turn on the reelection. All right.
So, yes.
Good morning. Call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order for April 26, 2022. Roll call, please.
John Dietmeyer, Mike Ratatek,
Here.
Brad Mitchell,
Here.
Steve Richardson.
Here.
Mark Wessels. Steve Solentrup, Steve Struberg,
And we have our we have our new council official, Mike and Coulter. Mike Coulter. And then the new mayor is here. See if you know who the new mayor is.
Hagedorn.
There you go.
Very good. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, for those of you that came to see Mr. Vietmeyer today, or those that are watching at home, I apologize, but I'm the new version this morning, so welcome, and also, again, welcome Mr. Coulter and Mayor Hagedorn. Glad you could be with us for this.
Wouldn't miss it.
We'll ask you later. First item on the agenda would be approval of the minutes from our March 22nd meeting, of which everyone should receive a copy.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Seeing nothing under priority items, we will move into wastewater. Kevin?
Yes, I'm asking for approval to make a payment to Wade's Equipment for the farm tractor that we purchased for the treatment plant to haul our sludge. Well, actually, it's hooked to the spreader to spread our sludge. It's something that years ago we always leased one. Then we went into a haul to the landfill process with our sludge. That worked, but it didn't work efficiently. So then we went back to spreading, and for the last few years, we've been swapping service with the street department with the tractor to pull the spreader. But when we needed to use it to spread sludge, they needed to use their tractor to cut weeds around town and right-of-ways and things like that. So we went out, put in the budget to purchase a tractor so that we can spread sludge at any time we need to, which is an ongoing project that will always be going. So this is the tractor we got. Went out for bids, and the Kubota was the cheapest, was the lowest bid. I don't want to say cheapest tractor because it's a really nice piece of equipment, but it was the lowest bid. So we have it in. We've used it several times. It's working great, and just need to make payment.
What was budgeted amount?
$83,000 was budgeted amount.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else under wastewater, Kevin, that needs to be brought up that?
Yes, one thing real quick while we're under wastewater. As everyone knows, our treatment plant was built and put online in 2009. So it's 12 years old, roughly. We're starting to have equipment breakdown. Everything is running through its life. We are having a VFD issue down at the plant. Variable frequency drives, we have a total of 22 of them down there, and they're starting to go out. We just had our second one go out for our disc aerators, which helps keep the sewage flowing in the vertical loop reactors in the circular motion and also adds air to them. This is the second one that went out. We're going to have to replace it. The last one that went out, which was just a couple months ago, the price of that came in at $47.53. I haven't gone out for bids for the new one, but with the way price trending is going, we can probably add 10 to 20% to the next VFD. The delivery times are 14 to 20 weeks, so it's a long turnaround. I just want to let everybody know that these are going to start going out, and if we're looking at $5,000, $6,000 every one that goes out, that's a big chunk of money that we're going to have to come up with. So I know I've been saying this, and I hate to say it because I don't want to have to deal with it myself, but we are going to have to raise sewer rates. We're not going to be able to keep on going at this pace with all the equipment going out. So
How many of these things are there?
there's 21 of them total. Yeah. And that's just those. Now we've got motors, we've got pumps and everything else that are starting to age out. So
Hey, Kevin, real quick, we should have probably talked about this a little bit, but is there any value in purchasing multiple ones at one time and then having some on hand?
when they're available, yes.
Because with
But
lead
right
times
now,
like
we're
that-
lucky to get one.
One at a time, okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that a little bit. but
Yeah.
if you have lead-
No, we've talked about that, but right now with the demand that's out there and the turnaround that's out there, nobody's even offering any multiple purchases right now. Now, in a couple of years, a year, if things change, we need to do that, but right now, there's no, and have hindsight being hindsight, maybe we should have been buying one every year or something, but, you know, that's an operational thing you don't really think about until they start going out, but.
What's the cost of one of them again? Sorry, I missed.
The one that I just ordered, that's ordered now is $4,500.
Okay.
But with the cost, with the way prices are going up, I'm looking at probably adding 10 to 20% to the next one.
Right.
Just because of the cost of
Okay.
equipment and how the prices have been going around, so.
15 years actually seems pretty reasonable to me.
I mean, it's a good run, yeah,
They
they're
run
not, they've been good, they're good VFDs, they're Allen Bradleys, and we're replacing them with ABBs, which is a Allen Bradley product that's just a step down. Good equipment, but just a little bit cheaper. They're good pieces of equipment, but they only last so long. It's energy going through them. The VFD ramps the motors up and down, so energy's always changing in that VFD, you know, trying to get more power in and out of it and stuff like that, so they do wear out. It's just,
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to budget, say, one additional per year, to your point.
well, I do a budget of one replacement every year. They're in the budget, it is budgeted for one replacement. It's just that cost has gone up so much, and now instead of one going out, we've got two have gone out, and maybe three before the year's over. We don't know, so.
Well,
When was the last, remind us again, when was the last time the rates were set?
2015, I think, is when that was.
and if you recall on the water rates, what we did was we went through a user, water rates are a little bit different because they kind of, it's like a descending rate structure to where if you use more water, your per 1,000 gallons goes down. So it's a little more difficult to probably look into the water rates. Sewage rates are pretty straightforward. It's basically based upon what gallons of water that you use. So it's not a very difficult thing to do. There's two components there. There's a user fee that gets paid regardless of how many gallons that you use. So it's like a connection fee, which is somewhat of a smart way to do things because then you also you have that revenue coming in. It's not dependent on usage, which there's pros and cons to that, but there's two different components to that. So it wouldn't take much for us to look at that. It's not near as a complex, I think, analysis as what water rates were. In addition, water rates also have a CPI escalator on them each year. So it runs with the Consumer Price Index, which is obviously pretty high right now. But I think and talk with Darren and kind of the strategy with everything. We need to look at adding that on there as well, so we're not constantly playing catch up into the future. I do not remember where we sit with communities our size on sewer rates. if you remember, water rates, we were in the top lowest, or the top lowest, the lowest three of communities, I think between 10 and 50,000 in the entire state. So we were pretty aggressive on keeping our rates low on the water side, which we had to do something. So I think sewer rates were similar to that, but I'd have to check on that. So maybe we can, as we go through this, we can report that back, just so you
Did
got
we
a feel.
just do the water rates 2 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago.
When we put that
I think it
different,
was implemented January 1st of 2020, and then, no, 2021.
21.
And then this year was the first escalator that was on that. So I don't remember what that was. I think it was somewhere around like, I think it was 6%. It was
Yeah.
not low. And then I would anticipate this year to be even higher on that increase.
if the cost
But
of
we're,
living thing is with-
well, we're looking at pipe prices that are
Oh.
40, 50, 60, sometimes, fitting sizes are 200%.
Yep.
I mean,
Pipe cost for our project we're doing out on South Point Road, the pipe alone went up 280%,
there you go.
just for the pipe. So,
I mean, yeah,
and that changes daily, that price changes daily, so.
the other issue you got is the, I know we use capital improvement sales tax to supplement some of the monies coming in, and I know there's other funding sources as well. But the strategy to use a sales tax to take care of probably your most important component, to your city probably isn't the best strategy. So those user rates really need to take care of those things. Which, that's a change in strategy of the past. Yeah, strategy of the past, I think there's a little bit that sales tax of people that live outside the city, spending money in the city, should take care of the infrastructure of the city. But again, you vote on that every 8 years. That's not necessarily the right way to run a water, wastewater utility, so.
With all the housing and things going up, it's,
Yeah, I mean, connection fees play into that too. I want to say water connection fees, they were looked at pretty recently. But, and they're pretty competitive. I checked those with like Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, and they're pretty competitive. I mean, it's not that we're low on connection fees and those things, but those kind of play into it because that is revenue in.
John, our connection fees are the same whether you live inside or outside of town and connect to the system?
No, they vary. It varies on whatever the agreement was with the water and sewer districts. So we have two different agreements, and they would vary. So like, for example, like PWSD number 1, which is Crocker Water District, it has its own agreement with the city because we treat their sewage in some components, and they pay us for that. But there is a bulk sewage treatment situation. So if they have facilities in the area that's not on-site septic, certain areas get charged a different connection fee. So it's not,
Yeah.
I don't know. It varies a little bit.
The only thing, John and I and Sal, as you guys know, looked at sewer extension to the east. And I think one of the things we have to be aware of is the fact that those treatment plants that are out there in some of those developments that they had, they're approaching their shelf life as well. So people that live in those subdivisions are gonna have to figure, either they're gonna have to just like Meadow Lake, yeah, and the reason that they come into the city. I mean, it's gonna be one of those things, and I'm not saying that they're gonna annex into the city, that's not it, but they may be looking at our system, and it may be it may be cost effective for them to go ahead and try to go ahead and get that built out to the east to hook that up. And that was something that we were trying to go ahead and deal with when we were looking at a development going out east. So we've got I think, a foundation with some property owners out there, but unfortunately, in this case, we just couldn't, the demands of too many, it became too much for us to go ahead and do, so we put it back in the hands of the developer if they wanted to pursue it. But I think those are things that we're gonna have to go ahead and take a look at, that those shelf life of those treatment plants that are sitting out there, they're gonna be looking to us at some point.
well, and there's new developments going out up there, to the east as well.
Yeah, I mean, your typical wastewater treatment plant's 20, 25 years is what is about what it takes. Now, that does not mean that facility's rendered useless on year 26, right? You can invest back into them. But like, for example, the school district's treatment plant's got a 25-year design life. So year 25, and also you have DNR regulations change constantly with different federal, state leadership. So those things change, and like when those things change, those entities then have to look into investing back into their treatment plant or look for other options. Meadow Lake decided to look for other options. That's why, that's one of the biggest reasons why they're now citizens of Washington. So
And the district had ran into the same situation with Emerald City off of Highway A.
correct.
Their plant was at its life, and to rebuild it and bring it up to DNR standards, it was more cost-effective to put a pump station in and send it to us rather than spend the amount of money to rehab that one or rebuild a new one. So that's what we're gonna start seeing more and more, is it's gonna be the regulations that DNR are putting out, which they need to do. It's all about the Clean Drinking Water Act. It's going to force a lot of communities, if they're in the area, or subdivisions, to come to us if they can because of the cost. So that's what we have to look at, is that it's gonna be a cost-driven decision more than anything else, and it's driven by the Department of Natural Resources, so that's what's gonna happen.
So the good news is the new stuff going in the ground, plastic pipe, those type of things, it doesn't have the issues that clay pipe has, right? And then we're also investing in this wastewater on the slip lining, and then the brick manholes and all those things that we've been pretty aggressive on the last couple of years. The plan is to continue that aggressive approach, and capital improvement sales tax actually kicks in, I think, next year to add more money into that, the slip lining projects. So I think over the next, 4 to 5 years, we should have the vast majority of the downtown, which is basically the older stuff built before, 75, 80, or 1980, north side of town, should all be basically slip lined and brand new going into the future, where this new stuff, it has a lot longer shelf life. So there's a lot of positive things happening right now, but just thought it was important to let you know what's all going on.
Yep.
And it all plays into those wastewater fees.
Yeah.
What type of time frame could we look at for you to come back with something to us on sewer fees?
I didn't really have too much of a time frame, but maybe give us, what we got here, April, maybe 3 months. I think that's reasonable.
Absolutely, I just don't want it to slip by and
No,
we have the
we've been,
same. Very good,
it has been on a dry erase board for a little while, just one thing at a time.
because I've said in the past when we talked about whether it be the treatment plant or, wells or whatever the case is, we need to try to get to the point to where we are self-sustaining.
Sure.
Where we have money to do those extra projects that come up, whether it's 10, 15, or 20 years, so.
Relying on a sales tax to do something for things that people don't see is just not probably the best strategy.
Very good.
Well, and you would also hope that within the next year that some of this costs that we've had with inflation may get a little better. And maybe this is a blip, but who knows?
When prices go up, very rarely do they come down. They kind of stabilize.
Yeah.
So,
All right, anything else wastewater, Kevin?
No, everything else is pretty good.
All right, let's move into water. Looks like we have another approval needed.
Yes. So this is a skid loader that we put in the budget. This also plays into part of the sludge removal. It takes 2 pieces of equipment to remove sludge from the treatment plant and spread it. It takes a tractor or a loader at the treatment plant to load the dump truck, and then we haul it out to the field and we dump it in a pile, and then the tractor and the spreader are out at the field, and then we need something at the field to load it into the spreader. So again, what we was doing was we was borrowing pieces of equipment from the street department or our own water department to try and offset the needs of spreading the sludge process. So what we did was our skid loader at Public Works still has a few years of life in it, but we needed something down the treatment plant. So we purchased the new skid loader for Public Works for the water and distribution and the collection side of the sewer. We'll use it for that. And then we're taking the skid loader that we have at the Public Works right now and transferring it down to the treatment plant. Then that will be pulled out to the field. And then when they go out and they need to use it at the field, they'll have a piece of equipment sitting out there to load the spreader. so that they can spread. It's more cost-effective to do it that way than it is to drive the tractor and the spreader all around God's creation, trying to take a load out to the field, spread it, drive back, load it up, drive back. So anyway, so that's what that is. Again, Wade's Equipment had the low bid on the skid loader. It's a Kubota. Again, we've had it for a few weeks now. We've been using it. All the operators like it. The street department has actually used it a couple times and ran it, and they are looking at replacing theirs this year, I do believe, in this year's budget. I think they're looking at going to a Kubota. They're good, solid pieces of equipment. I know Bobcat's always been like the #1 for skid loaders, and John Deere's always been the #1 for tractors, but there's other manufacturers out there that make the same pieces of equipment even a little bit better than some that are worthy to be looked at and purchased. So that's how we approached this when we went out for bid for it. Chad did a lot of work on the skid loader, making sure that everything was apples to apples. So anyway, so asking for payment on that one.
So move.
Second?
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Looks like we're spending some more money.
Yes, that's all we're doing today, aren't we?
Pay request from Cochran.
From Cochran, yes. This is the pay request for the Enduro water tower. That's their part of making sure that it was done the way it was supposed to be done. So just asking for payment on that.
So
Who
move.
knows?
Second?
Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And looks like we'll pay Worldwide Industries.
Yes, now the big one. Okay, this is a pay request for the Enduro water tower. The Enduro water tower is completed. It is online. It is blue, like all the rest of them. We did put the name on it this time. It never had the City of Washington name on it. We added that to it this time. You can, when you turn into Vossbrink, you get to see the City of Washington. We kind of angled it that way because you only see it a little bit coming down the highway and you can't really tell what it is, but anyway, that was just one of them things. So the company did a great job. I know this is a new company out of the East Coast that moved to the West Coast to do work. They've done work in South County. Actually, I guess it would be, South County area. This was the first time that we've worked with them. They did a great job. They did Clay Street, which I think they did a great job on. They came back and fixed up all the damage to the yard that they did. Did a great job with that. Enduro, they did a wonderful job on. It looks good. So we're just there asking for payment on that. We are holding back $110,000. They do still have to put the mixing system in Clay Street. When they got done with that one, like everything else, it was on back order. So they couldn't put it in, but we had to get it back online. So the plan is now in September-ish, somewhere around there, they're gonna come back and we'll drain that tank and they'll put the mixing system in. They couldn't get here before June to put it in, and we're not gonna drain 1 million gallons out of a water tower in July and have 1 million gallons of water not sitting in the air. So we pushed it back to September, maybe October, depending on, we'll see what the weather does. But so anyway, so that's the plan. So we'll hold on to that until that's completed, so.
Very good. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the pay request to Worldwide. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion does carry. Kevin, anything else for us?
Yeah.
Business or other not listed?
One more thing, it's a little show and tell. Chad, did you bring them bolts in? I want to talk a little bit about the Stonecrest issue that we had. These bolts here are the bolts that was on the top of the valve out there.
Kevin, the smaller ones were on top of the valve, the bigger ones was on the flange.
Was on the flange, okay. So if you look at them bolts, they're corroded. Some of them were gone completely. So that's what generated the leak out at Stonecrest. The reason why I'm showing you this is because this is the first time any of us, myself, Carrie, or Chad, and I've been doing this for 22 years, have seen the bolts on the top of a valve corrode off. The point being is that this could possibly start happening a lot more out there.
Why would it
Or
happen
anywhere
there
else.
compared to any place
Well, who knows? I mean, we've got our theories, but they're just theories. I mean,
Does it have anything to do with the water?
Well, it's old, that's old pasture ground, I don't know.
Yeah, it's-
It could be a very acidic ground, I mean,
yeah, that's,
I mean, we could take a soils test and figure that out, I guess. I would imagine that plays into it. It could be a bad batch of iron.
Iron,
I don't
yeah.
know. Maybe the
Who knows?
valves that were put in
yeah.
could have used a different grade of steel. There's no way I would know. But
It's-
that was put in 2006, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not new, but I think you would expect more than 16
We especially when you look downtown area, we've got 150, 160-year-old pipes down here, and the bolts haven't corroded off the top of those valves. So there's things going on out there. Point being is Stonecrest was in the late 90s and then built all the way through, so we have that whole Stonecrest Phase 1 and Phase 2 that we might run into this issue again. I'm just kind of giving everybody a heads up.
How many more similar valves are there out there, do you know?
I'd have to
We'd have to count, but I'd go out on a limb and say in Stonecrest alone, probably 50. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot if they start leaking.
Well, I
and
was
you have to-
going to say probably not phase 1,
How many
phase 2,
went?
15 to 20.
How many did we have a problem with? Or did they have a problem with?
I was just,
So far, we've had 2 problems out there in Stonecrest with, yeah. But it was the flange bolts on that one, not the top bolts. Yeah, on a T out there, we had the same problem happened out there on a T. We had to do the work, but it's just, again, it's the cost of repairing these things that we have to keep in mind because everything has gone up. That valve alone has gone up. Doubled with just what we ordered this last time has doubled. So it's just, I'm just kind of wanted to bring and let you guys know.
any way of-
See some of the stuff we're seeing out there in the field
'em up.
that's happening, that's
Is there
starting
any
to
way
come
of
up. So.
checking just the bolts?
dig them up.
Oh, okay, they're not above.
No, they're all underground.
Okay.
No, and that's the only way we found out what the problem was we had to dig it up. We dug it up and it's like we're all looking going, wow, we've never seen that before, but anyway, so, which then created the whole issue of the overpressuring out at Stonecrest and all the stuff that Mark got to be involved in and some other residents, so.
So Mark, you had good pressure for your shower that day.
Chuckle about it, but it was a serious issue for a little bit, but anyway, so. But guys did a great job responding. Chad was out there with me. We did a great job. He did a great job of getting involved in it, so, got a great crew. We got a great crew.
Do we, and I apologize because I probably should look closer than I do sometimes, do we budget for ongoing unknown repairs and expenses to what I would call our infrastructure? I know we put stuff in for slip lining when we know we have money, but obviously the treatment plant, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of things that are gonna potentially go wrong with the treatment plant. And
Yes,
we have
yes,
money,
we do.
I mean, if we have money set aside for it, we shouldn't
It's-
panic and dwell on a lot, we have the money set aside for it. But if we're not setting the money aside for it, then we probably have a much bigger issue than what we.
Yes, we have water system repair and maintenance. We budget in $7,000. We have equipment repair and maintenance on the water side. We also have a well pump repair and maintenance. So we do budget this stuff, and we anticipate from previous years what the costs are, like any budget does. It's just this year and the way things are going now, things have gone up so high that the budget is getting hit pretty hard.
I think that's the point is that moving into the future, we're looking
Yeah.
at maybe adding 25%.
to the budgets.
I understand that, but if we have 22 VFDs at $6,000 a pop, we should have anticipated, all of us should have anticipated that need, and we should have $6,000 times 22, or whatever that number is, we should have that sitting somewhere.
And I think that's the point of bringing it forward today is to get caught up on that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, I don't disagree that we should have had that. I mean, I don't know, should you have been on year 10 life of those, should you have been doing that? Maybe, I don't know.
I just think
Maybe.
if we stay ahead of it, and that by either what we budget and/or where rates go, and we've all tried to hold rates low for whatever, for a long time, but if we stay ahead of rate increases and we stay ahead of maintenance, we don't get to a point to where we're behind in rates and we're behind in what we should have set aside.
Well, when we do that rate review, we use the 10, basically you use the 10-year budget, so on your large capital items, and then the smaller items like we're talking about here, those do get at the time, it was a 3 to 4% CPI estimate is what it was. Running, I think CPI in the last 10 years ran around 2.5%. So we actually had a little bit built in that as well. But that's how the water rates were reviewed as well, is you looked out 10 years, figured out, okay, on year 10, what's it gonna look like? And that's how we backed into essentially, or did that analysis. That's how I would do the same thing here, I think, except I think we'd have to look at something, maybe the next 3 to 4 years have a pretty substantial, CPI escalator, and then maybe ramp that down a little bit. I'd have to work with finance on what
Sure,
their
well,
opinion is.
absolutely, yeah.
John, how much, there's been a lot of building, and that's positive. How much does that, for instance, you've got the back end of Rabbit Trail, you've got downtown. How much, and I know the builders put in the infrastructure, but it's still, you're gonna start using water, you're gonna start using sewage. How much does that impact?
Well, your water situation is always pressurized, right? So
Right.
it's there, use it, because that's where you make your money. I mean, you don't build infrastructure not to use it. So, as far as, so your real concerns are your sanitary, making sure you have capacity on those things. That really our peaks really come in is when we have rain events. So again, keeping that stormwater out of sanitary helps that as well. Really no different than the treatment plant that runs on average, I think, like 2.9 million gallons, a day, basically, and I think it's a 4, but you see these spikes during rain events. Well, if you can mitigate those spikes by investing on the upstream side, you really start to get some capacity that you really thought you were gonna have. So that's money well spent, because at the end of the day, you're getting that capacity back for the future, but you're also building brand new stuff, which is gonna last you the next 75, 100 years. So, it does play into it, but I mean, when you're talking, your average home is probably 300 gallons per day. Treatment plant has there's probably 7,500, 8,000 people that can be added before you gotta start looking at the treatment plant. So, you're not quite that, I mean, you're a little ways off yet, on something like that. So it's your individual pipe systems that you kinda gotta be concerned about. But again, we really only see issues during rain events, and that's where you really need to start solving that on the front end rather than the back end, which is what we're doing. But you can only do that with money,
Yep.
And that's where ARPA, capital improvement sales tax, I think that starts to make a little more sense to use that money, to make the system better than what it was. It's a critical path, but it's not as critical path as just being able to keep up with everything,
Yeah.
Guys, can I ask a question? As we get older, you and I, Mark especially, I hear that saying that things don't last as long as they used to. Refrigerators, I fixed my washing machine the other day by taking the sucker apart with a YouTube video. I'm sure you guys do that too. But we passed around these bolts, and everything now goes to the lowest bidder. And a lot of times, the lowest bidder is overseas. And quite frankly, they don't make stuff like we used to that last. We used to build and design our cars and everything to last 25, 30 years. That's not the case now. And my concern, my big picture, we see this in public work, but we need to be doing this across the spectrum of the city's, for lack of a better word, stuff. And Darren, are we doing that? Giving us some cushion as we look forward?
Cushion in the sense of,
Spare parts? or, you know, looking for other vendors? You know, I know that.
Yeah, I can't say that we've actually done an attempt to go ahead and look at additional vendors other than what's out there.
We stick with, as far as the gate valves and your water system, the standards, usually I think Mueller does a lot of the stuff in town.
Well, on the water side, there's what they call the AWW standards.
Yeah.
And that governs all equipment, built for the water industry. So that's what we look for when we go out for bids, and we use, how many do we use, 5? We use 5 different vendors when we go out to get, materials, valves, fittings, whatever we need. And all of them are specified to follow the AWWA standards. Now, the AWWA standards says buy American, just like we try to buy American as much as you can, but sometimes you get into a situation where you can't even find American to buy American. You know, and that's what we're seeing a lot of now, and we buy as much American as we can, but sometimes you just can't get the American because it's not available, so.
I would also add too, city's bigger, right? So when we have, the risk of things happening are gonna be much higher, right? Because just sheer number, sheer chance it's gonna happen more. So, even the Stonecrest situation, I was sitting back and I was thinking about it, like, what did we do 10, 15 years ago? Well, you wouldn't have notified anybody on Facebook. You wouldn't have notified anybody. You just would have went and fixed it. And the notification, which is good, I'm not saying that's bad, but that's what causes a little more of maybe the anxiety of the situation is that it's not just a 1 day, 2 day thing, it's over. It's okay, well, let's ramp up. Okay, let's plan for it. Okay, let's do it. Let's find the right time. Then let's go back and look, why did it happen in the first place? So it's a much, I guess, the know, people wanting to be in the know is a lot more than maybe what it used to be, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I think that might play into a little bit of this. Right. The sewer side, you have products that get utilized in the sewage system that weren't around 10, 15 years ago. That's not toilet paper. And those things, because those are our biggest issues, to be honest with you, on the sewer side. So when you have a sewer backup, it's the biggest thing going, obviously, for that situation. But we didn't have to deal with that many years ago. You didn't have, 3-ply stuff that goes in your sewer system. So those things don't get
Non-biodegradable.
non-biodegradable.
call them.
That's a good word.
Is that getting?
You'll hear that today at 3 o'clock.
They work.
Wipes are an ongoing problem. After a while, how many times can you beat a dead horse? It just, you keep bringing it up and people stop listening.
So what you do is,
So we deal with it.
well, you solve it the best you can by slip lining sewer lines, because that takes away the joints that catch everything.
rip too.
By lining manholes where you don't have these real sharp surfaces that catch those type of things. So you just try to play catch up constantly. So I think it's kind of just the nature of the beast, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't disagree. We had some contractors. I'm switching gears on you, but we had some concrete contractors that did not do a good job for the city. We used federal money. When you use grants, you have to use essentially the lowest bid. So it becomes very difficult to kick a low bid off a contract, which I know we had a lot of discussion about that at the time. So we looked into, should we have a list of contractors that we don't use in town? We do not currently have that right now. That would be a way to at least put a little teeth behind a bad project. So stuff like that.
I have not, I can't
But-
remember ever seeing a contractor on the debarred list for the state of Missouri, for example. So it's like, if you have, when you receive like a community development block grant, you've got the oversight by the state, and you've got, HUD has an oversight over the state to make sure that you're utilizing the money the way it's supposed to be. But it's very difficult to go ahead and say, well, even if the city has had a problem with that contractor, if you're using those federal dollars, you're gonna have to go ahead and you're gonna have to make a hell of a case for that. And sometimes that the state will help you a little bit. We had a situation one time where we had a contractor who built a bridge and would never close out the project because he never agreed on the last change order. And it took forever. It took like 2 or 3 years before we finally
the state just said, you've sent them enough notification, we're gonna close the project out. But I don't think that contractor was ever put on the debarred list. So, I mean, those are, and we've had our own experience with, we had over at the airport, we had a problem, we had two contractors that we had problems with, it seemed like at the same time. One, we had a block grant out there in the industrial park where they were doing some grading, and then the other one was over here at the airport. And it took a long time to finally go ahead and get settled, but we did. So, but again, you're using federal dollars and you don't have as much discretion over that at the local level, so.
And that doesn't happen with this department that often. We don't.
But buying equipment is real, well, buying equipment's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, it'd be
You
the
know.
equipment.
There was some conversation, Kubota, John Deere, Kubota, tractors, those type of things. But that's probably the biggest discussion, and we just explain that and move on.
Yep.
Thanks for educating the new guy, wading through.
Sorry for the lengthy answer.
There is a pop quiz that the tractors and the skid loaders, all that back and forth and where it went and who moved it where, and there is a quiz on that, there'll be a diagram.
Well, and you have to go out and run that thing.
I can do that.
Anything else for the good of the
No.
order?
Nope, I think we're done.
Looks like next meeting is Tuesday, May 24th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
Anybody want to talk about it? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.
You got a busy day?
So I take it.
Not too bad.
Wanted to come up
Yeah, how about that?
and introduce myself.
Steve, Chuck Hanger.